How's it going, guys? I'm Josh and welcome back to the channel. If you're here today watching this video, it's probably because you are a brand new turkey hunter or you're just getting into turkey hunting and looking to learn a little bit more. This video is going to be part 7 of my 7-part turkey hunting for beginners series that I've been doing over the last few weeks. And if you haven't watched the previous videos to this series, I strongly suggest that you go and do so if you are a new turkey hunter. There's a lot of good information in there. Not saying I'm a professional or anything, but from a beginner's standpoint, I think there's a lot to learn in those videos, and they're pretty in-depth, so definitely give those a shot. Check them out. All the links to those videos are down below in the description. But with that said, let's kind of get into today's video, and this is the last video of the series, and it seems only fitting to me that we're going to talk about turkey hunting strategy. And turkey hunting strategy is a really broad concept because there's a ton of strategy that goes into turkey hunting. And, you know, even me, I've been hunting turkeys for 10, 15 years, and I still am learning every day new strategies, new tactics, new tips. And with that said, I was doing a lot of thought about like how to go about doing this video, because if I dive into every single type of, you know, tactic and tip and strategy there is, this is going to be a very long video, and I don't think any of us have time for that. So what I have kind of decided how I want to kind of go about teaching strategy is I'm going to follow myself, I guess, on a couple hunts that I did last year and kind of overlay some audio and tell you guys like why I was making the decisions I was making, what I was thinking, what I think the bird was doing or the gobbler was doing at the time, and why he was doing what he was doing, and kind of get into the whole strategy of those hunts. Now I have 2 different hunts in particular. One was successful and one was not, and I think both of these hunts are really good examples of like common turkey hunts, that like the way they unfold. With that said, we're going to dive into them a little bit here, and hopefully this helps you guys out. Let's dive in. This is a hunt that took place last year on, I believe, May 2nd, and it's on a piece of public down in southern Ohio, so really hilly terrain, about 3.5 hours from my house. So I didn't have a lot of time to do any like in the field scouting. I had been down here years past, but we know how things change from year to year, so a lot of times it's good to put boots on the ground and actually scout in the field. But in this particular hunt, I really didn't have any time for that, so I relied a lot on my e-scouting or scouting maps on the computer to figure out where I wanted to go. If you are having any questions or want to know how I go about doing that, check out part 3 of this series. This is a pretty cool hunt because it kind of worked out, but it kind of didn't. So we'll start from the top here. It is just at the crack of dawn here, super early, and that's about how most turkey hunts will start out, just because it's probably the funnest time to hunt turkeys because they're the most vocal. And I just want to note, just because I didn't get a lot of in-the-field scouting doesn't mean you're not going to be successful, because turkeys, especially if they're in the mood to gobble, are going to make it pretty easy on you and let you know where they're at. And if you can get your ears on a bird, then it's going to make your life pretty easy. So what I'm doing here is I'm walking the top of this ridge. I'm on a really high point, so I can hear a long ways, and you know, I can hear any birds if they gobble down in these big valleys. It drops off on either side of me right here. I'm up pretty high, and I can pretty much hear this whole valley, which is connected by a power line that runs north and south. I haven't heard a single gobble, but if there's birds gobbling on the other side of this ridge, I wouldn't hear them. So I'm just going to keep easing my way up to the tippy top. That way I can hear down into each of these hollers. And if I do hear a bird, I'll be in a good position to make a move on them, hopefully. So at this point, I haven't heard a single bird, but as you can hear, I was concerned that I wouldn't hear them gobbling if they were on the other side of the ridge. So I worked my way up to the top. About 10 or 15 minutes later, I hear my first gobble. bird gobbling. Way out this way. I'm not sure how I want to go about this. So where this bird is roosted is just over the tip of the ridge, right where you'd expect him to be. He probably pitched down to his tree from the top of the ridge the night before. And as you can see what I'm doing, I'm probably guessing that bird was 100, 150 yards from me when I first heard him gobble. So I'm just working my way into position, making sure that I'm keeping a lot of the tree foliage between me and that bird so he can't see me. The video quality here is terrible. Sorry, I was kind of pumped up, but I finally get into position above where that bird is roosted. And I'm going to tell you that's a pretty important thing. You really want to be above where they are if you can. You're going to have a lot better chance of calling that bird uphill to you as opposed to calling him downhill. He's going to want to come up to look and see where that hen is, because if he's down in the bottom, he's going to feel like that she can't see him. If he's up top, he's going to wait for her to come up and see him. So getting above where these birds are roosted is definitely a key if you want to be successful killing one right off the roost. Now, I haven't called to him yet at this point whatsoever, and that's so that I don't draw any attention to myself. I don't want to bust him accidentally before I get set up. But here, I actually throw out a couple yelps. And those are just some soft tree yelps. He doesn't respond, but that's okay because what he does next lets me know he knows exactly where I'm at and that he did hear me. So once the gobbler hits the ground, he's down below me on this ridge about 100 yards, and I can see him from where I'm sitting. And this is where your calling can get a little tricky. I try to stay away from actually calling to birds when I can see them and when they're that close to me. I want to do more subtle turkey noises to let him know that maybe I'm ignoring him or I'm not interested and I'm walking the other way or something like that to get him interested and want to come find me. And that's the whole point. You want to get these toms or these gobblers to come look for you. And if I start calling to him right now, he might sit down there and strut and just wait for me to come to him. So instead of yelping at him or calling to him, I just scratch some leaves on the ground to imitate a hen feeding. And this fires him up, and as you can see, he comes walking right in. So I just want to talk about how important your movement is and how you move when a turkey is in this close. Their eyesight is so good, and they'll pick you out if you move every time. So it's really imperative that you're waiting for them to move behind a tree or their head to be behind their fan. You're paying attention to other turkeys that might be close by spotting you, and you're not going to give yourself away by making any unnecessary movements. Now in this particular instance, this bird was 35 yards away to the right of me. He had worked his way up the side of this hill, and I couldn't turn my gun past my camera tripod. So at this point, if I wasn't filming, I probably would have killed that bird by now. But he's working his way to the right, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get a shot at this bird without him busting me first. It's really important that you are paying attention to the bird's body language and kind of taking everything in and understanding what's really going on in the situation. This bird knows exactly where I'm at. He's strutting right here in front of me, 30, 35 yards for a reason. He's looking for this hen. And he's not going to hang around for very long if that hen doesn't show up. But it's also really important that I'm waiting for a shot opportunity. I don't want to call to him either, because that's going to set him on alert. I'm going to be so close to him. He's going to be like, why don't I see that hen right in front of me here? Something is going on. Something's fishy. It's probably my best option at this point just to stay as quiet as possible and as still as possible and try to wait for an opportunity for that bird to move behind a tree so I can make a move with my gun. All right, so I'm going to play this clip out. But if you listen really closely, I think this is some really good examples of a turkey drumming and spitting. You can hear him spitting every time he puffs up, and he'll take a few steps forward. He's definitely displaying and trying to get me, the hen, to see him and come look for him. As you see, it doesn't really end up the way I expected. This gobbler must have saw something he didn't like, and I make a rush decision and pop a shot off at this bird as he's trying to get away and miss him completely. So enjoy. So literally that was a textbook turkey hunt, and everything worked out except the execution at the end, which is completely my fault, but the turkey followed the script completely. Just to summarize that hunt a little bit, to start the morning, crack it on, I was up somewhere really high where I could hear a long ways. I just happened to hear a bird and be able to make a move on him, get above him, and I was very strategic for when I called. I waited till I was set up, and I was quiet with my calls, you know, based on how close I was to that bird and the time of the day. So you kind of want to match the situation. No reason to be screaming at 7:30 in the morning. And he flew right down. I gave him a couple scratches. The rest was history, I guess. So, but that was one hunt, and let's move on to our second hunt here, which ends in a little better way. Alright guys, so this is a hunt that took place actually a few days after I missed that bird you just saw. This hunt starts actually the night before I actually was successful. What I'm doing here is trying to put a bird to bed or trying to roost a bird, which is a pretty common practice among turkey hunters. And it's really useful because if you know where that bird is the night before you get in there to hunt him, I mean, half of the work is done. You don't have to find him. You can just slip in there and get as close to the roost as you can and hopefully be tagged out, you know, as the sun's coming up. But this is my preferred method of roosting birds, and that's by putting on some miles, getting back into areas where you think these birds might be roosted, being careful not to bump any, and to stay away from areas where they might be roosted, you know, 200-300 yards, and blowing a locator call. Here I'm blowing an owl hooter. There's multiple ones you can use. Usually in the evenings I prefer an owl hooter. It just seems more natural to me. But what you're gonna be doing is waiting for these birds to get up on the roost and get comfortable. That last 15 minutes of daylight, when it's starting to get dark, that bird's going to be in the tree and start to relax and fall asleep, and usually the day winds will start to die down at that point. It'll be pretty quiet, and that's when you want to blow that owl hooter and kind of catch that turkey off guard and get him to shock gobble. Nobody really knows why they shock gobble. Maybe they hate owls. Maybe you know, it's just the loud noise, sexual frustration, who knows, but it does work. It doesn't work all the time, but it does work. And in this instance here, I got this bird to gobble. And once I heard him gobble, the first time I was probably 250 yards away. And I slowly worked my way towards him, hitting that locator call, hitting that owl hooter, and trying to get him to respond as I got closer, until I was probably within 150 yards the last time I heard him gobble. And I had a really good idea where he was roosted, which gave me a fantastic starting point for the next morning. Alright guys, so the next morning I headed back out to that same spot where I had put that bird to bed, and this hunt is going to show you how well things can come together if you roost a bird and you know where he's at. That morning it was raining pretty good, and I ended up leaving my main camera in the truck. I didn't want it to get wet, and I filmed this whole hunt on my cell phone, but I think I can still get the point across. And because it was raining, it stayed darker a little later, and it was really quiet moving through the woods because everything was wet, and I was able to sneak in really close and be confident that I didn't bump him or he didn't see me. Now, he was roosted out at the tip of this ridge, and one can assume that when he flies down in the morning, he's probably going to fly out to the top of that ridge and then walk out that ridge, as opposed to walking down these steep slopes or flying down across the valley. So what I did is I worked my way in towards where he was roosted along the top of that ridge to kind of cut him off when he flew down. I never even called to him. Didn't make a peep. All I did was set up so I could shoot down the ridge and I could see about 50 yards, and you'll see what happens next. It came together pretty quick, and this is kind of the type of hunt that you hope for if you roost a bird the night before. So those were two examples of turkey hunts and how sometimes they might unfold. I hope I talked about the strategy enough. I hoped it helped you guys. I hope you got some ideas and you kind of see how a turkey hunt might go. For you guys who are just starting turkey hunting or you haven't started yet and this might be your first season, don't take all this stuff too seriously. Remember, it's supposed to be fun. And we're out there to enjoy nature and get away from stuff and have a good time and fill our freezers with some good meat. Killing a turkey is just a bonus. Stay safe. Thank you guys again for watching. I really appreciate you joining me again, and stay tuned for a lot of turkey hunting content coming up. Our season here in Ohio starts Saturday. I couldn't be more excited. I got a couple birds in mind, and I got a trip down to the Wayne National Forest that I'll be filming all that too. So I'm gonna have a bunch of videos coming up, so stay tuned for that. Thank you again. I know I always say thank you, but I really do appreciate it. You guys are the reason that I make these videos, and I love seeing your comments, so please continue doing that. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new video. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next one. It's 6:34. He flew down. I didn't hear him because of the rain. He just comes sneaking right down the path. That was a 30-yard shot. I really wish you guys would have, I really wish I would have gotten better film of him. God. That's a wet bird. Nothing worse than a wet turkey. Oh, look at that.